Good morning and welcome to the second English lesson on review writing. Earlier we had report writing and exercise 6 is a formal writing, and the previous one was report writing, and the second we are going to do today is review writing. Review writing is a new topic that is being introduced by the Cambridge IGCSE English as a second language, and this exercise 6 is given for you to test or assess your writing skill. So, when you are doing this exercise, you should pay attention to the phrases that you are using, the way you are expressing yourself, and the language and the vocabulary that you are using to express your opinion or to express your view accurately to the question that is being asked. And another thing that you have to keep in mind is the audience that you are addressing, whether they ask you to write to your peers, or whether they are asking you to write to the teachers or to the elders or whoever the audience, the question whatever they are asking, you have to address to that audience. So, that also you have to keep in mind. There are different types of review. We cannot say that they will only ask about book review or film review. Anything they might ask. It can be a book that you read, it can be the film that you have watched, or a product that you have bought, or it can be a place that you have visited, or it can be an event that you witnessed. It can be anything, or a course that you attended, or a training program that you have attended. It is not that you have to have a personal experience of the thing that they are asking you to write, but you can always use your imagination and you can write. So, these are the different things that they might ask you to write, and they will give you just one topic and you have no choice. So, whatever question is asked, you have to answer to that question. So, before we could go in to see what review writing is, let us look at that word review, what that exactly means, because you have to have a clear idea of what that word is, then only you will be able to express yourself. Review is nothing but what you have viewed, what you have read, what you have witnessed, what you have experienced. So, it is something that you are revisiting or going back or reliving that experience, and then you are evaluating from your perspective. What is it that you think about that book, or what is it that you feel about that particular product that you have bought. So, review means you look back and then you evaluate whatever that you have been asked to. And another thing that you have to keep in mind is also you have to not only write about the strength, but you also have to focus on the weakness. You have to be very analytical, whether you have to look into both the sides, and then you should be able to express yourself in that particular situation. Coming to this formal writing, the format is the same, whether it is report writing, review writing, or article writing. The format is the same for all the three types of writing. That is, the first paragraph will be the introduction, second paragraph is the main body, then the third paragraph also is the main body, and the last is the conclusion, and then you give your suggestions and recommendations. But each when you are writing on each particular topic, the vocabulary and the way and the content of it will vary. So, you have to pay attention to that, and this class, this lesson will be on film review and book review. Film review, why we are doing, you might think, why are we doing this exercise, why we have to write about film review. So, the main purpose of why they are asking you to review a film is that to express your opinion on that particular film. What is it that you think about that? And another, the next purpose of it is also to determine whether the reader, the person who is reading the article, or the person to whom you are writing, whether that person will be convinced to watch the movie, or whether they will be so tempted to buy the movie. So, the way you write the film review matters, whether that person will be really, they will be so desperate to go and watch the movie. Or if you are writing about the book review, it is not just to write the summary of it, but you have to write about the strength and weakness of that book that you have read, and also about the next thing is you will write about the author, the way the author describes the plot, the way the author has described the situation, and then you will evaluate your opinion based on that. So, coming to the way how you are going to write, whether it is a book review or a film review, the way you are going to write it matters. So, the first one is the introduction. The first paragraph is the introduction, and what you write in the introduction really matters. If they ask you to write about a film review, these are the things that has to be there in the introduction. That is the director, the person who directed the movie, and then the year of release, which year it was released, whether in 2018 or whether it was released in 2019. If you are not specific with the month and the date, it is fine, but the year you have to mention in that, and the title of the film, whether it is the Avenger. All of you all must be very, very familiar with all the movie release. So, whichever movie that you have watched, you have to write the name of the movie and then the genre, that is whether it is a comedy, whether it is a fun movie, whether it is an action movie, whether it is a horror movie, you have to know all that. And then the setting period, maybe the movie is taken now, it is taken in 2018 or 2018, but it can be a situation or something happening that took place earlier. Maybe they are the movie is about the Second World War. So, the thing is happened somewhere in the past, but then now they are taking it. So, the setting period is also very important. So, when you are watching a movie, these are the things that you have to pay attention to. It is not just for a time pass that you are doing, but when you are watching the movie, you have to see who is the person who directed it and which year was it released, what is the title of the movie, and then whether it is a comedy, the movie that I am watching, or is it full of action, whether it is friction or whether it is a war movie, and what is it talking about, which period of time is it talking about, and then you will give a very, very brief introduction about the character, about the hero and the heroine in that movie. A very brief, maybe one sentence you can talk about it, because later on you will be going into details. And in case they ask you to write about a book review, you have to write the name of the book, okay, Lost and Found. Then the genre, what is it, whether it is a fun one or whether it is a comedy or whether it is an adventure book, whatever it is, you have to mention that. The author, the person who writes the book, it can be one person who is writing the book, or it can be co-authored by many. So, you have to write the author, the person who wrote the book, publication date, when was it published. You can't just write, many of us have the habit of writing, but then there are very few things that are written and it is being published and then it is sold. So, you have to know when it was published, the date or the year it was published, and then again similar to the movie, the setting period, when was this book actually, the situation that they are describing, when was it actually done, and then you have to write about the main character, just 1 or 2 lines about the main character. So, this will be in the introduction. When you are writing the introduction, if it is a film review, these are the details that has to be there, and if it is a book review, the details have to be, these are the details that has to be there. So, you cannot mix up both and write and then expect great marks. And when you are writing, I have told you that vocabulary is very essential. So, we have just listed out few phrases that you can use to make your writing easy. We have just listed out a few phrases, that is the film is set in, the fascinating film is, and then you can just go through this and then you can see the film was directed by, or the most thrilling. All these words you can use and make your writings look very interesting and very attractive. Okay? And in case you are writing about the book, the story is set. or the story took place, when it took place. So, all this where it took place or where that situation is, all those things that you can give. The original first novel, this was maybe that is the first novel that has come, so you can write about that. Then the book tells the story of. So, these phrases which will help you, which will make your writing easy. This is about the first paragraph. Then before you go into the second paragraph, it is always better that you ask yourself these questions. Okay? That is what makes the plot special or interesting or gripping? Why is it so many movies you watch or so many books you read, but why is it that you want to write about this particular book or you want to write about this particular movie? So, you have to tell what makes this plot. Plot is nothing but the summary of the movie. What makes it so special and how the plot is different from the other novels or the movies that you have watched, and what makes the setting very unique. Why is it so special, the setting or the way that it is being conveyed? What is it so special? And then you can ask yourself this question also, that how the setting helps in presenting the story. Okay, so, these questions before you could go to the second, that is the second paragraph is the main body. Before you could go into this main body, you can always ask yourself these questions. And then the main body, this main body you will write it in 2 paragraphs, that is the second paragraph and in the third paragraph. And the second paragraph you will write the summary of the plot. Okay. The story, you will not go into details of what the book is about or what the movie is about, but you will just give the summary of the plot. When you are writing the summary of the plot, make sure the suspense, you hold on to the suspense, that you create the suspense when as they are reading, the reader is reading, you should create a thirst, a desire, a longing for that person to go and watch the movie or to buy the book and read. So, always keep the suspense aside and do not go into minute details, just the brief, the summary of the whole thing, you will write it in the second paragraph, keeping the suspense aside. Then before you go to the third paragraph, which is also the main body, you can ask yourself these questions. That is, how does the story portray the characters? How are they talking about the characters? And then what is appealing to you, like how the roles that they have played, whether it is very good or they have done an extraordinary performance. So, that all these things you can think over and then you can start writing. And when you are doing this in the third paragraph, these are the things that you have to pay attention to. It is not all that is what is listed out, all the details you have to give, but you can take the main things which is most relevant, most convincing, and then you can write that. So, you can detail your commentary on the viewpoints, on important aspects of the film or the novel that you have read or you have seen. So, when the first thing that you can look at the effectiveness of the plot and the actors' performance, whether they have done their best, they have given their best, or is there anything more that they can do, and the costume, the costume, the design, and then you can talk about the special effects, the animation, the sound effects, and also the writing style, how the book was written or how that story, the screenplay was done. All those things you can, and here these things also you can keep in mind, whether the setting is perfect for the plot, whether the actors did their part or they overdid their part, or they could have done something better, and then having the lighting and the quality of the photograph, and also you can tell about the mood and the feeling of the viewers. In what it was, whether it was very tensed or very relaxing, or it was some happy feeling that you went through. All these things you can include in the third paragraph. This third paragraph is the first paragraph we have seen, it is just whatever the movie, if it is directed or it is written, it is all factual information. And even the second paragraph also, it is the movie, it is more factual, what you see you are writing. But the third paragraph is something that what you experience. So, this paragraph, when you are doing the third paragraph, you have to keep these things in mind when you are writing it. The thing is, you will be talking about the specific strength in that film, whether that movie was really good. And you can, it is not that you always have to write the positive, you can always write the negative as well. And then you can talk about your analytical skill, where you can express yourself very well, whether it is good. You can talk about the strength of the movie, the weakness of the movie, the performance, and how the director had directed the movie, or the situation over there was very good, the ambience was very good, and the plot was very good, and the way they had the dialogues that was delivered, all those things you can critically analyze the whole thing, the positive and the negatives of the movie or the book, you can write that. And another thing that you have to keep in mind when you are doing, when you are writing this third paragraph, is based on what you write in this third paragraph will be your conclusion. So, you should gradually develop or build up the review in such a way that your conclusion, whatever you give, is very convincing. So, the reader knows what you are writing or what you want to express. Suppose you want to recommend that movie or you want to recommend that book to the person who is reading it, you have to write it in such a way that they are convinced of what you are saying. And these are the vocabulary we are giving you, because the way you express is very important. It is rather confusing, or it is long, or it is slow, boring, or when you are writing this in the third paragraph, you can use all these phrases. You can say whether it was boring or whether the the cast was very excellent, whether it was weak, whether it was awful, and the script or the story is dull, clever, exciting. You can use all the adjectives that you are familiar with, and you can always express yourself, or whether you felt or you thought that the movie was excellent, and whether you were impressed by the way the actor acted, or the costumes that was there, the light effect, the sound effect. And you can also tell about what was the thing that struck you the most. Certain scenes you always tend to remember, so you can always describe that, and what I liked the most, what you liked or what you didn't like about it. It is not that you should always be positive, you can always say if you are not happy about something, if you do not like it, or it could, you feel that it can be done better, you can always express that. That you can do it, because the third paragraph is just how you feel about it, how you think about it, or what you believe in. It is your opinion. So, it is you can use any of these phrases and express yourself. Then coming to the last, that is the fourth paragraph, which is the conclusion. This conclusion is equally important like the other, that is the introduction or the main body. The conclusion is equally important. So, when you come to the conclusion, you should be able to convince the reader that what you are saying is right, and you should be, they should be motivated to go watch the movie, or they should be dying to go and see that movie or the book that you have read. You should be able to convince them, and then you should be very, very clear of what you are saying, whether you recommend that book or the film to the particular person, to the reader, whether they should go and watch that movie or whether they should read that book. You should not be like a cat on the wall, you know, saying good and bad and then leave the judgment to the person who is reading it. But you should be very firm, and you should be able to convince the reader of what he or she has to do. And then the last thing that you have to be very clear is whether you are recommending that movie. If you are recommending the movie or recommending the book to the particular person, what category of people are you recommending? Whether it is for children, or you have the rating of the movies, no, whether they can watch it or whether it's only for children or whether with parental guidance they have to do, or this movie or this book no child should read, all those things. So, you should be very clear to the audience to who you are referring or recommending this book. So, this is all about book review or movie review, and as I told you, review is nothing but what you are revisiting, what you have already done, you are going back, recollecting what you have experienced and sharing your experience and that information with the person, to the reader. So, the format that you have to follow is very simple. It is all written in 4 paragraphs. The first paragraph is the introduction. Second paragraph, the introduction, if it is the movie, you have to make sure you write about the director, you write about the name of the movie, the character and the producer and when it was released. And if it is a book, you have to mention the name of the book, the author of the book, the person who wrote it, and then the year it was published, and you can write about the main characters. If the second paragraph will be the main body, where you are writing the summary of the book or the movie that you have watched, and then you will write about the summary of it, okay, the summary of the story that you have read or the movie that you have watched. The third paragraph is your opinion, whether you like that movie, you love that movie and you want everybody whom you know to watch it. You will express your opinion on the character of the movie, the setting of the movie, the photograph that was the photographer, how they have handled everything, whatever is captured your attention, whatever has captured your thought, you will express it and you will convince the person who is reading it to do it. Last will be the conclusion to whether you are recommending it or not. And as you develop, as you are writing from the first paragraph, you should always keep the ending in mind, whether you are recommending it or not. So, your writing should be in such a way that you gradually develop and then you come to the ending. This is all about book review and film review, and you can always get back to us. We are there with you and we are there for you. So, whatever doubts you have on this, you can always get back to us, or you can ask the teachers concerned in your school to share the information. So, it is wonderful and we believe that this session was useful to you, and thank you.